Ithaca she came, home of Odysseus, where, in his absence, she found some 108 suitors, all men who wished to marry Penelope, the lonely queen.
Marry her? Was she not already wedded? But what sense did these suitors have to think that they could have to wife Penelope, Odysseus' wife?
As the ruined queen tried to stave off these villains, Athena looked in with pity at her. Penelope, the beautiful queen of Ithaca, sat on her throne, where she sadly sat for many a day, awaiting her husband's return. Though she sat straight and noble, the sadness in her face was most pitiable.
The suitors would say, "We're not leaving! We're not leaving! Until you decide which of us to marry!
Until you decide which of us to marry!"
Then these suitors, these haughty princes, all of us, we lounge around the house. Now look at that! Suitors! This is our house now! Yes! And we also order the servants to bring us food! Food! And we sat all over her furniture. We never helped in anything except to make a mess.
Penelope spoke to them, these lazy suitors who refused to leave her house. She said, "Tell them, Your Majesty." Leave?
The suitors responded. They shouted back at the queen.
No! But Penelope had it with them. She stood up in anger, ready to leave.
But the suitors stopped her with words of wooing. We began to shout out reasons why we should be picked to be her husband. And we began to point out qualities that we thought the queen would admire in us. We began to shout out to the queen, to persuade her. What did we shout?
I'm handsome.
I'm handsome! What else did we shout? I'm funny! Penelope, what more can these suitors say to you?
Penelope heard these greedy declarations of love, but she still held out hope that her husband would return, didn't she? And so she had made a decision about marrying them. She said, "Your Majesty, do you want to marry them?" She doesn't.
Telemachus,
Son of Odysseus,
Son of Penelope,
came forward.
you suitors do not listen. My mother has told you to leave this place and go back to your homes, and yet you persist in bothering us. I give you this one last warning. Leave now, or I will remove you myself.
The suitors, who had no respect for this young prince, laughed at him.
Oh, scorn as you must, but I warn you, the gods will bring their wrath upon your heads if you do not desist.
The suitors responded to this thing.
You do not fear the gods?
They did not fear the gods, and they would remain until the tortured queen would yield.
As they were arguing, 2 eagles were sent by Athena. They were fighting and clawing one another high above their heads.
As talons tore, ripped, and shred, the smaller bird pierced the chest of the larger bird.
And a single feather fell to the earth. Hush, fellow of the assembly. Everyone knew this was a sign from the gods.
Suitors were speechless, for some feared that the larger eagle represented them, and that the wound signified their demise.
The queen, who smiled softly, hoped it meant that Odysseus would come back and crush the suitors in his fury. Old Lord Halitherses, the ancient and wise prophet, came forward. It fell to him to interpret the meaning of this omen. He went and picked up the feather. He then glared at all of these wicked men and said, "What? Great Lord Halitherses, what will happen to all of these men?"
I believe that this sign from the gods shows that Odysseus will return to his home and destroy you all in his fury.
Odysseus will destroy them in his fury? Thank you, wise Lord Halitherses.
Old Lord Halitherses was indeed very wise. The suitors would meet their doom for their disrespect of the gods and Odysseus' home.
Gray-eyed Athena, goddess of wisdom,
had seen enough of this misery and decided her course.
She would aid her favorite mortal in his journey, which had only just begun.
the